Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. It's been raining today. I'm going to go down and check the stream and see if it's filled back up because it's been dry for a while. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit more about the tribes that were driven to the countries in the north. And I want to talk about some thoughts that I've had about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you end up liking it, hit the notification bell, leave comments, and please share this video with those that you think would find it interesting. So, you know, I occasionally get some comments from people, not being rude or anything, but kind of refuting the idea that, because like there's always been kind of a battle, I think, within the church between people who believe that there's a group of Israelites that were driven to the land of the north that are still intact, that all this time have had prophets, and you know, they have scriptures and so forth, and then those that don't believe that, people that believe that they've simply been scattered mostly northward, and yeah, those guineas are loud, that they've been scattered northward, and a lot of the words and the phrases used in the scriptures are more metaphorical than they are literal. So I guess it's like a kind of a difference between those who take it all literally and those that take it more metaphorically. Not necessarily all the way metaphorically, but it comes down to like just the way that you interpret those scriptures and how they're worded. So hold on. Okay, so here's the stream. Looks like there is some water, but it doesn't, yeah, not over here. It's all just pulled up right there. Gosh dang it. For the better part of the year, there's water in this, but you know, we've had the hottest, the US has had the hottest summer on record, so maybe that has something to do with how things have been going this year. Anyway, I am pretty much open both ways, but I guess I'm more like, I'm probably like, you know, more like 90% on the side of that there's not a literal group that's remained intact ever since the Assyrian conquest, and that they've simply been scattered to the north, that they've been conquered by various you know, other peoples, nations, religions like Islam, Catholicism, so forth, that they probably did have scriptures that just like the Book of Mormon have been hidden away that may see the light of day at some point. But yeah, I'm only like 10% that there is an actual group hidden somewhere, some unknown part of the earth that hasn't been discovered yet. And there's a lot of theories about that. I'm familiar with the Admiral Byrd story about him, you know, flying to the North Pole and then going inside a large opening that sorry, I don't mean any disrespect. I find it unlikely. And he came across a people that were way more advanced, and they gave him like fuel for his plane because he was out of fuel. Anyway, yeah, I'm familiar with that story, and Admiral Byrd has definitely made some interesting statements. And there's a really famous interview of him where he was being interviewed. I don't know if it was some kind of like talk show. I don't think it was just like the regular news, but I don't really know what it was. But anyway, I'm familiar with Admiral Byrd, okay, and I know that there's probably something weird going on down in Antarctica specifically. I'm not sure so much with the North Pole. The North Pole is not a landmass. It's Are you okay? Are you sick? She's coughing. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on her. Are you sick? How's your... You got scours or anything like that? How's your eyes? Are they sunken? Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on her. We might have to give her a shot. Yeah, we probably will do that, actually. So, I guess it's plausible that maybe Greenland somewhere has some kind of like cavern, and it just like, to me, it all just sounds really kind of far out there, kind of outlandish, those kind of beliefs. Now, I know a lot of people go to the scriptures, like in Jeremiah 23, it talks about how once the tribes in the north return, that it's no longer going to be talked about, you know, when Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, but it's going to be, the conversation is now going to be about how the 10 lost tribes came back, right? And then in DNC 133, that's like the other passage that people with that belief system would use to talk about, you know, the highway that's going to be cast up. They're going to come, the highway of ice, they're going to, that's going to come up from the midst of the sea, and they're going to come back, and they're going to be crowned by Ephraim. And I actually want to kind of do a deep dive on that. I already have, as far as like, we've talked about the concept of the highway, and how when you go to the footnotes, it takes you to Isaiah, and you start to get the sense that the highway is the covenant path. It's the way of righteousness. It's coming back into the fold. It's, you know, because even though you know, you may be an Israelite that's been scattered, if you've lost your religion, you're essentially a Gentile, and so you're brought back. But anyway, there's a lot of people that kind of like, they go with the belief that when the 10 tribes come back, it's going to be a big group, in that it's going to be incredible. It's going to be so incredible that we're no longer going to be talking about the Exodus with Moses, but this is going to surpass it. And I just read that scripture. It doesn't say that it's going to be more incredible, but simply that we're no longer going to talk about the Exodus. We're going to be talking about the gathering of the 10 lost tribes. And that's it. It doesn't say anything about that it's going to be more incredible. But in a way, it actually is going to be more incredible, because if you think about the day that Jeremiah lived in, they did not have airplanes, they did not have the internet, they did not have all the technology that we have nowadays to be able to do what we're doing and do all this missionary work and hunt and fish for Israel, you know, hunt them out of the rocks and fish them out of the sea. I'm actually kind of concerned about, sorry, give me just, are you okay? Are you sick? Are you just kind of like taking a nap? Sorry, I don't mean to bother you. Because you think about modern day Jews, okay? Their big thing is still the Exodus. You know, they celebrate Passover. They celebrate, what other, like a lot of what they, well, with like Pentecost, for example, the Feast of Pentecost, they celebrate the 50 days that led up to Moses receiving the 10 Commandments. So it's like, you know, you have the Feast of Tabernacles, where they literally have a tent or a booth that they set up, you know, on your property, and then like you're supposed to spend most of your time out there in remembrance of the time that Israel was wandering in the wilderness. Well, you know, the Restored Church, we've already moved on past that. We still do talk about how great the Lord was to bring Israel out of Egypt, but we've moved on to the gathering phase, right? The Jews are still back there thinking about that. We are now regathering Israel after this horrible dispersion that's happened. And once the Jews, okay, because we know that one of the things with the second coming is that when Christ comes, the Jews are going to be converted to the true faith. And they're going to accept Christ as the Messiah. Well, at that point, the Jews aren't going to be talking about the Exodus out of Egypt anymore, are they? They're going to be like us. They're going to be like, wow, we just went through a couple hundred years of Ephraim and Manasseh and, you know, the modern day tribes going across the whole face of the earth with airplanes, with internet, with cars, with bicycles, with all these different things to gather everybody back in. That's a really hard task to go throughout the entire earth and find all these people. I would say that that's probably more incredible than Israel coming out of Egypt. And I think a lot of people on that side of the argument, they kind of think of the Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments with, you know, the incredible, well, at the at the time in the 60s, the incredible visuals of the Red Sea parting, which there's reason to believe that it didn't look like that it could have been a result of natural forces that the Lord obviously would have used, but that it wasn't like some big cinematic thing that happened. And I get the sense that a lot of people think that way. They think cinematically, you know. We are a product of our times, and, you know, we are a people that have all grown up on movies and blockbusters, and we're used to watching, you know, nowadays it's the Avengers movies, X-Men, Star Wars, stuff like that. And so I think we've kind of been conditioned to see things in a cinematic, kind of cartoony way. And that probably has an influence on how we interpret these kinds of scriptures. And frankly, it's not in that sense, yeah, it's not as interesting as if, you know, there was a group of the 10 tribes that, you know, they've been in outer space this whole time. They were able to advance because they removed them, because they left the world, and so science was able to develop quicker. They were able to leave, you know. It's like Battlestar Galactica, which I actually think, if I remember right, I think that was based on that concept of the 10 lost tribes. I think there was an LDS guy that had a hand in that. I don't know if he came up with the story, but I'll have to look that up some other time, okay? But I'm sorry, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think that what we're doing right now is the incredible work that that many are coming through on this highway to the kingdom, the covenant path, and that they're coming to Ephraim and they're being crowned, right? Because when we go in the temple, think about what happens there, or at least what is promised to us when we go there. It's all about being crowned, right? Becoming kings and queens, right? So I think you could say that that's happening as we speak. It's been happening since Joseph Smith. I found an article before I started doing this video, because I just wanted to make sure I knew which scriptures I was going to be referring to, which again, Jeremiah chapter 23, D&C 133. Those are like the two main ones. But I found an Ensign article, I think it was 1999, and it was talking about the similarities between the original Joseph, who was sold into Egypt, and then Moses, who led Israel out of Egypt, and how that's very, very similar to Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, right? Joseph being the one that initiated the restoration and basically saved all of us in the sense that he brought us the covenants back, right? We were all starving spiritually. There was a famine in the land. There'd been a famine since the original church was destroyed and the great apostasy. But Joseph Smith, the prophet, he brought us back. He was able to feed us and help us avoid this famine from happening to us. And then Brigham Young, he was the one that led the saints on the pioneer trek to their promised land in Utah, right? And the article like goes in depth. I'm gonna have to do a video just on that article. But I think the case could be made that, again, just like Jeremiah said, it's no longer going to be talked about, or it's no longer going to, we're no longer going to recount so much the original Exodus, but we're going to be talking about the bringing in of the lost 10 tribes. And that started with Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, who literally went on a trek and went on their own exodus out of the United States and into what was then Mexico, and in starting up Zion, or you know, taking Zion with them and then establishing it in the Rocky Mountains. Oh, hello. You want to get in on this conversation? Huh? You want to get in on this? What do you think? Do you think that there is 10 tribes that are up in the North Pole? Or do you think that they're just, you know, scattered throughout the world, like the Pashtuns and the Cochins and the British Isle? Okay, enough with that. So anyway, and you know, when it comes to the highway being cast up from the deep, I mean, the imagery there is the ocean, right? So I understand why people would interpret that in a literal way. But the point has been made by numerous other members of the church that I've spoken to that could be talking about, for example, the internet, the ocean of information, right? The ocean of communication. And then even if you want to kind of take it in a literal way about a highway being cast up from the great deep, if you think back to those pioneer days, one of the first like main missionary efforts was to the British Isles, which again, I haven't done a video on it yet, but there seems to be a lot of evidence that points to the fact that those in Western Europe, especially in the British Isles, are descended from Israel and are those northern countries. That was one of the first places. I think it may have been the first place. Maybe Canada, I'm not sure. But we know that there were many, many, many saints that came directly from the UK to the United States. They took a highway, so to speak, across the ocean to come to Zion. They've been gathered. When you look at, there are maps out there that come from the U.S. Census that will basically tell you by county what the majority ethnic group there is, or a better way of saying that, where, okay, the majority people living in that county, what their ancestry is. And in the United States, a very good majority of it is from Germany. There's a lot that are Hispanic, of course, in like the western states. Yeah, you have like different groups all over the place. But when you look at Utah, almost the entirety of Utah, the majority ancestry is from the UK, from England. Not the UK, I think specifically from England. I think that says something. I think that there's something special about the British Isles. And they were meant to be part of that, the first stages of the gathering of scattered Israel. So, again, I'm not meaning to make anybody upset, start contention. I know I kind of like laugh at it, because it feels like science fiction, frankly, and it seems to to have literally been made science fiction with Battlestar Galactica. I'll have to research that, but you know, I don't, you guys, I don't think so. I don't think so. I know there's the point's been made that there's a distinction between the gathering of scattered Israel and the leading forth of those that are in the north. Like, I understand that. And that's probably because, like I said, and I'm not trying to be racist, but the countries in the north are the European countries. It's like they've probably maintained those beliefs the best, or they may have been the ones that kind of remain intact. Some of them probably became barbarians. Some of them probably joined in with, you know, the Celtic tribes and you know, other things, you know, Visigoths and Franks and, you know, all the different tribes that there are, that there were in Europe. But it's just interesting how Christianity, you know, it's spread into Europe, you know, really well. Yeah, even though it was an apostate Christianity, and I understand it was because of the Roman Empire, but you have to think about that. You have to think about these groups that accepted Christianity, even though some of it may have been by force. Anyway, I don't want to get too into that, because there's probably a lot of study that I'll need to do into that to be able to talk more specifically about it. But I would caution you from taking a cinematic approach to the scriptures and to church history. I know it's tempting, because I know it's more interesting, you know, it's fun to think about that kind of stuff, but and I'm not saying that you're bad if you do believe in that literal group of 10 lost tribes, you know, inside the earth, but you know, that could be looking beyond the mark. It's not that this is like a salvation issue. It's just something that's interesting to know. It is certainly important. It's part of the work of the Lord. But I think that when we think about these kind of like extravagant ways of thinking of the 10 lost tribes in the north, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. What the heck was I saying? Oh yeah, that it could be looking beyond the mark, just the same way that the Jews were expecting, you know, an incredible, you know, extravagant Messiah that was going to come and fight all their battles and you know, fend off the Romans and all that stuff. We do know that that's literally going to happen with the second coming, but in terms of the 10 lost tribes, we may just be thinking a little bit too extravagantly about it, and it may not be as exciting. But I really do think that the gathering of those from the north, it began with Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, and those early saints coming from England and Western Europe. And anyway, I don't think I have anything else to really add. Let's go check on Moon over here. That's her name. This one's Vivian. This one over here is Moon. I mean, I cannot tell. Like earlier today, she was up and walking around and she looked like she was fine. It really might just be that she's tired right now, but I'm a little bit worried about that cough. So I'm gonna have to talk to my friend here in town who has more experience and see what he would recommend is by way of shots. I'm sure I can just get some over here at the farm store here in town, and then we'll give it to her. But these two, they have been doing great. You know, it was a little sketchy in the beginning, we had to tube feed that one for a little bit, but then it turned out, I don't know if it was because of dehydration. I know that she kind of was, but then we just like switched the nipple from like the regular nipple to a smaller one that's used mostly for goats and sheep, and then it seems like that kind of fixed that problem. Moon has always been really healthy. You know, they run around, they play, so yeah, just let's not be sick, okay? I'll make sure that you'll be okay. I'll get you a shot, help you feel better. They are both now weaned, so we're not giving them the bottle anymore. They are now just on grass. I think this month we're gonna go ahead and order our hay, but it may not be until next month actually, because there's actually still quite a bit of grass. There's still a lot of green that they can eat, so maybe we'll wait until next month. Hi, how are you, beautiful? Hey, hey. I don't have a bottle. You're done with bottles. Those days are over. Okay, so you know, I'm sure there's gonna be pushback on this video, and that's fine, but just keep in mind I haven't completely done away with that other theory. It could happen. I don't know. All that we can really do is read the scriptures and do our best to interpret them. This isn't something to lose sleep over. It's not an issue of salvation. We shouldn't spend too much time on it, unless you're like me and you're running a YouTube channel and it's a second coming channel, but that's just in that context. I don't lose sleep over it, and I don't make it the main point of my gospel study. And I do, aside from YouTube, do my own study of the scriptures, so don't think that this is all that I think about or talk about. And then on top of that, I teach Elders Quorum, which doing this YouTube channel is actually pretty handy when it comes to that, because I have a lot of interesting facts and like things that I can easily quote just from the top of my head. Okay, I can't do that one-handed. I have to do that even though it like closes down here. I gotta like work on the hinges over there. I think they're a little bit offset, and so like sometimes this will just like come open if someone pushes against it, or maybe if there's like really strong wind. But okay, yeah, I'm just rambling now, so I'm gonna go. If you like this video, please make sure to like it, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, leave all your comments. Especially, I would really appreciate comments with sources for your information, so I can look into it, bring it up in future videos, and I would also appreciate it if you shared these videos to help grow the channel. And I'll talk to you guys later.